Hi, welcome to this week's With Liberty and Justice for Some. I'm Congressman Mark Pocan. For our one question today, we've got an extra special guest, the governor of Wisconsin, the 46th governor of the state, Governor Tony Evers. Governor, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, Mark, how's it going today?
I am doing well. Thank you for being here. Our one question we like to ask, and you'll appreciate this because this is a little bit like fantasy government. If you had the ability to change any one federal law, you don't have to go through Mike Johnson or Donald Trump or any of the cast of characters. Ron Johnson will be hiding down in Florida at his house down there. What was the one thing that you would like to change, and why would you change it at the federal level?
Yeah, and I'd put it in this context. I'll have to go back to my time as a teacher and
Sure.
state superintendent. And you've heard this before, but money, just basic money that the federal government provides, special education, other arenas. Mm-hmm. There's almost there's disincentive to try to get that money because it is so difficult to implement. It's so difficult to respond to. It's just, and I don't complain. I don't like complaining about things that are, state gets yelled at every once in a while too, being too particular. But just from my experience in that world, it is it's difficult, and it causes kids not to be able to learn as well as they could. Simple.
Yeah. No, I hear you. We had another guest recently on the podcast, and their thing is sometimes we just have to admit maybe we haven't run programs as efficiently because of what you're just talking about. It was so much bureaucracy to get the money to actually just help kids.
Yeah, and to their credit, the federal government's always taken kind of a lead on, lead with the states, but around kids that struggle in all sorts of arenas, and those are the ones that need, frankly, less of government interference.
Yeah, no, thank you, Governor. Appreciate it as always. Thanks so much.
Take care, Mark.
I have great respect for people in state government. You're closer to the people, and the impacts that you can have on their lives is much more immediate than the federal government. I spent 14 years there, I know. And in many states, there's a variety of different jobs that impact people's lives, including in my home state, the positions of state treasurer, attorney general, and secretary of state. These statewide elected offices are important as they all have unique powers that can help people. But they also have the power of the bully pulpit across the state. But getting elected statewide is no easy feat, especially in a big purple state like Wisconsin. And for those who do get elected, they can use that position to advocate for other broader goals. And my guest today is someone who is especially unique in that she has served in two different of these statewide positions, making her especially unique in the history of Wisconsin. My guest is our current Secretary of State, Sarah Godlewski. Welcome, Sarah.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. It's so great to be here.
Well, thank you. And so you've been both our state treasurer and our Secretary of State in Wisconsin. What's that like? Are you the only one in history, first of all, do you know, or it's got to be unique?
I think I am the only one to have held these two statewide positions. And I'm really glad that you are shining a light on these offices, Mark, because I think they do go kind of undercover as far as the work and the value that they can bring. Like, I mean, I'm the first to admit when I got the call that Governor Evers wanted to appoint me to the Secretary of State's office, I was like, okay, what does this office do again? And how can we make sure it brings value? But when you look at how our Constitution was written back in 1848, I mean, it is clear that our founders wanted checks and balances, and the Secretary of State was part of that as far as ensuring that we had an accurate record and that we provided transparency and accountability with whether it was the legislature or the governor. Our work on international items, like never forget when I first got appointed, I started getting congratulatory letters from like the foreign ambassador from Taiwan
Oh, wow.
or from Brazil and from
Yeah.
France and from Canada. And I was like, am I in trouble? Like, why are they sending me these congratulatory letters? Well, we are the only office in the state of Wisconsin where if you want to adopt a child overseas or
Yeah.
expand your business, you have to go through our office because we have to ensure that your documents are legitimate so the Canadians or the Europeans will actually trust it because you just can't do work unless you go through our office. You couldn't get that done by the Minnesota Secretary of State or Illinois. It'd have to be us. And so there are a lot of unique things that that we do that I think a lot of folks have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Well, let's take one step back because where I first got to know you was you were leading a statewide campaign to keep the position of state treasurer, probably for the very reasons you just said. There's a reason why our founders in Wisconsin had these positions. But you fought for it and you led that effort, and the Republicans in the legislature tried to get rid of that position. They were trying to consolidate power, and you beat the Republican legislature in Wisconsin with that campaign. Just talk a little bit about why it was important to save it, even though I think I know the answer, so everyone else does.
Yeah, well, it was kind of, as you know, these things are sometimes random how they all work out. And for me, I was working doing impact investing and access to capital for women and communities of color. And when I found out the amount of money Silicon Valley was getting in one day is what Wisconsin was getting in an entire year,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is really messed up. And where is our chief financial officer for the state doing something about this? And so I started calling the chief financial officer and find out he's actually trying to get rid of the state treasurer's office. And your point, Mark, I'm like, this seems a little fishy. Like, what is Scott Walker trying to do by removing an office that's our chief financial officer? Like, that's not good accountability in government. And so I remember talking to folks and saying, I think we need to do something about this. We need to save it. And they're like, Sarah, the legislature has already voted twice. The governor has given his nod. Like, there's nothing you can do. And then we put together this very kind of motley crew of people across the state and educated them on what the state treasurer should be doing for the people of Wisconsin. And then to your point, we won with a super majority, which just doesn't happen in the state.
Yeah. So when you were treasurer, what were some of your favorite things that you were able to do as treasurer?
So I really focused on economic security. Like, to me, that was the one thing that we really had an opportunity to do. And one of my favorite efforts was our home ownership project, because in Wisconsin, we are behind the national average for home ownership. We are the third worst state for Black home ownership in the entire country. And how do people build wealth? It's by owning a home. That's like their largest asset on their balance sheet. And so we started with all the 72 county treasurers because they have a unique connection to home ownership through property taxes. And in the state of Wisconsin, if you don't pay your property taxes, you accrue 1% interest every month. So at the end of the month, it could be 12% interest. At the end of 2 months, it's 24% interest. And so people are foreclosing. Well, their home is worth $75,000, but they owe $500, but they just can't pay for it.
Yeah.
And so we created this home ownership task force and then ended up creating a homeowner foreclosure prevention fund, Mark, because county treasurers know when this is going to happen. So then we could send them letters and say, we see that you're in trouble. Can we help you? And then we were able to get wraparound services. And so this we created right before COVID. And then when COVID hit, that, people found themselves like without a job, not able to make their property tax payments. And so we then created this Help for Homeowners program and saved thousands of homes during COVID with people that could have lost their home by just a simple property tax payment.
Wow. Yeah. And that's, again, using the office. and using the bully pulpit of the office to try to help people at maybe some of the toughest times. I know talking to judges during that time, foreclosures was really huge, and anything that you could do to help people stay in a home, so important. You also did some other around smart investing and other things too, I remember.
Yeah. So I was and still am like the chair of the BCPL, which using this educational moment, Mark, it was really, I'm proud of our founders, because when they founded the state, they were like, okay, the public lands that we're getting, if we sell those lands, we're going to put the proceeds in a trust fund, and that trust fund's going to then go for public schools. And so when I started, the fund was worth about $1.1 billion.
Wow.
Today it's worth $1.5 billion.
Nice.
And when I took over, we made some big changes. Like there was a gag order on climate change. So I couldn't look at how our investments were going to be impacted by erratic weather, or our public lands were going to be infected by infestations. Like they said that there was nothing that you could do with regard to climate change, which is just irresponsible. And then we also wrote in like focusing on Wisconsin, the exact reason that really led me to want to run for this office, because why are we investing in BlackRock and Blackstone when we can actually be investing in these like Wisconsin businesses in our own backyard? And just last year, we had the largest distribution to public schools. So my first distribution was at $38 million, Mark. And just last year, we had $70 million.
Wow. Nice.
Doubled in 4 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, and it's going to continue to benefit folks too, because the fund's larger and you'll have bigger distributions. So,
well, Mark, like our public schools need these funds. How often are we talking to teachers who are going to garage sales or thrift sales to buy things for their classroom when they need these resources? And so the fact that every child benefits, it all helps.
Yeah. And it's a less stress on tax dollars, because you're raising it through this.
Right. Like we're helping
like
do the best with property taxes through this fund. Yeah.
So then you left being treasurer and you started, I don't know if you started or you joined something, but it was helping women get elected to office, because despite the fact that women are a majority of the country population wise, they're certainly not a majority in elected offices. And was that what was the group that I forget the name of the group that you were working with?
Yeah, Electing Women.
Electing Women.
Yep, that was focused on helping pro-choice women locally get into office, because Mark, as you know, we're 51% of the population, but in the state of Wisconsin, we were at the time 24% of the legislature.
Wow.
We were behind Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois. And on some ratings, we were even lower than Iowa, because we haven't had a woman executive, which, Mark, like, come on.
Yeah.
Iowa? We're behind Iowa, Mark? I love Iowa, but like, come on. Yeah. And so when fair maps became real in Wisconsin, we're like, you know what, we need to take an opportunity and talk to women across the state and say, you can do this, because you have to ask women 5 to 7 times, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I haven't taken a class on campaigns, or I haven't taken a class on governance. And you're like, you don't need that. Like you manage your household, you own a small business, and you're on the city planning and tax committee. Like you're ready. Like, let's go. And so it's, this kind of infrastructure that we're creating to help women have the confidence, and then also the network behind them to know that when they step up and run, we will be there to help get them over the line.
Yeah. And then during this time, you got an interesting phone call, and you mentioned it very briefly at the beginning, but tell that story again, because what happened is Doug LaFollette had gotten reelected again. Wisconsin obviously has a history of LaFollettes, and he decided to, not that long after getting elected, to step down from the office. And I'll let you finish the story.
Yeah. Well, it's so, I still think about it and laugh, Mark, because I get a call that the governor would like to see me. And I go, okay, am I in trouble? Like, what do I need to be prepared for? And they're like, Sarah, just be yourself. And I'm like, that's not very comforting, guys. Like, I like to be prepared. And so I sit down with the governor and he starts talking about how Doug has unexpectedly resigned. And per the Constitution, he has the right to appoint somebody. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, I know all these people statewide. I'm sure I can help him brainstorm a lot of good people. And he's like, no, Sarah, I want to appoint you. And I'm like, wait, me right now? And of course I say yes. But kind of the funny back end story of it, Mark, is I say yes and I'm driving home and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't ask my husband or say, hey, Gov, can I just talk to Max for a few minutes just to make sure this is okay? And so I get home and Max is like, are you on a planning committee? Like, are you helping? Like, what are you on a side project? Like, what does the governor need your help for? And I'm like, you're looking at your new Secretary of State. And he's like, what? Like, he was just blown away.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his follow-up question was, well, how much time do we have to like get our family ready for this? So do we have a few weeks? Like, what's the transition plan? And I'm like, I have 48 hours. And he was like,
nice.
and the other funny part is, and you fast forward to Friday morning, I have not gotten information on how I'm going to get sworn in. And I just assume, Mark, it's going to be like it was for, like a Supreme Court justice, and they'll at least have it on Wisconsin Eye, or it will be something transparent. And I get a knock on the door that morning, and I'm trying to get my kid ready for preschool. And it's the chief counsel for the governor's office. And she's like, I'm here to swear you in. And I was like,
oh, man.
So I ended up taking my oath of office in my Packer pajamas. Which, I mean,
that adds to the uniqueness of the two positions you had also, because I doubt anyone else in state history has done that.
Right. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this right now. So there I was in my Packer PJs, like, here we go.
Yeah, nice. So tell me about the position, because we know that over some time, the Republicans in the legislature, tried to attack that office as well. But tell us about what that office is in Wisconsin and what you're doing with it.
Yeah. Well, so let me just even kind of like set the stage. So I thought I had seen a lot as state treasurer. I mean, look, there was a constitutional amendment to get rid of this office. Like, I thought that I had seen it all. But to me, this was almost training for this position, because when I walked in, there were boxes of records that had not been touched for a very long time. Those international documents that we need to approve because people are ready to adopt children today, they were weeks behind, and they were still using a seal from 1881 to like actually certify these documents.
Oh my God.
Like, I thought it was an antique, and they're like, oh no, this is what we still use. And what I want to really be clear on is that this is not a result of Doug. It's a result on the Republican legislature, and they didn't cut the responsibilities from this office. They just cut the funding. Right. And it actually dates back to Act 10. So when Doug refused, so the Secretary of State, one of our responsibilities is we countersign legislation before it's kind of set into law. And so Doug refused to sign Act 10 when he was Secretary of State. And so in doing that, the next budget, the Republican legislature and the Republican governor said, all right, it's retribution time. And they cut his staff from, what was it? I think 8 to 10 people to 1. Yep. They relocated him from an office. We are one of the most visited offices besides the visitor center in the Capitol to the basement that is hard to access. And so they just left him with nothing. And to me, this is, again, an exact result. Like, how do we make sure people can't do their jobs? Well, you cut off their funding, even though we fund ourselves. We generate our own revenue, but I have to give that money back to the Republican legislature and can't even use it to do my job.
Yeah. For people not from Wisconsin, Act 10 was the Scott Walker attempt as soon as he got elected to try to destroy public employee unions in Wisconsin. And that's when the Democratic senators left the state to slow down action there. I was in the state assembly at the time. We all had T-shirts fighting for Wisconsin families. And it was the uprising, I think, is what we refer to when we had tens of thousands of people every day around the Capitol. But I just wanted to provide that context for everybody.
Yes. Yes. So it was that big, like, where state senators left the state to try to not sign the legislation. Like, it was a big deal nationally. And so they were like, well, we're going to try to make sure this never happens again from the Secretary of State. So let's just cut off their funding to stop them from doing that. But for me, I think one of the things that we've been really lucky about is we've been able to be scrappy, first and foremost, but also built partnerships with agencies, with the governor. And so we've been able to, like, address the backlog. We've created an electronic portal. So now records, whether it's, pardons or oaths of office, any Wisconsinite or quite frankly, anyone can go to our site and have access to all of these records. Before, you would have to go to my office. As much as I want to see you in person to get these services, we now have more of an online experience for folks. And then, like, the other piece is that we've been doing what we can to use this office to stand up and defend democracy. Well, we are one of only a handful of states where the Secretary of State does not administer elections. We need, and my belief is that we've got to do everything we can to be an active voice for the state when we are seeing, the authoritarian regime of Trump attack our election workers who are doing the best that they can day in and day out to ensure people have a voice at their ballot box.
Well, and that's part of the bully pulpit of these positions I was talking about. You literally have done this, I think, more than anyone I've seen do this, is you get around the state and you talk about different issues that are related, and you're making sure that even if the legislature has taken away the staffing and you still have the responsibilities, but not the, maybe ability as easily to do these things, but you're also talking about, the elections, because it's important we have that safeguard. And you've done a lot of that. So talk more about some of that advocacy work you've done around the state.
Yeah. So one of the first things that we realized is that clerks could not get support from work study students. So work study students are when the federal government provides money to each state that then through financial aid, it pays a student to have a job, which is really important. Like, I know for me, Mark, I couldn't take an intern position that wasn't paid. I needed to be paid because I was paying for college myself. And so work study is a really good way to get students because it gives them money to do this work. Well, there was an exemption that didn't make sense in, like, the Higher Education Act that said, well, you couldn't support elections, which to me is just bizarre because we want the next generation to participate fully in our democracy. And part of that is giving them an opportunity to see how our elections operate, whether that's putting stamps on ballots or, like collecting information, but that was exempt. So we worked with, I think it was a total of 20 secretaries of state, bipartisan, wrote a letter to the administration saying this does not make sense. Like, clerks would love to have these work study students support them. And we got the administration to rewrite the rule. And in Wisconsin, that's, I think it's about $1.2 million, or it's $22 million, and it's 14,000 students. Wow. And these are tech students, these are college students. And I think the federal budget is over $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
So that was like a win-win, because now these, students, when they go back home for the summer, they can then, like, participate and support their clerks, as an example.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then because you seem to have a problem with free time, you decided to run for the first vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and you ran unopposed. There was a race for chair, but you, I think, cleared the field out. But tell me about, running for that position and what you think Democrats get right about elections, and maybe what we don't get right about elections and what we need to continue to work on?
Well, I think the one really great thing about Wisconsin is that through leadership like from Ben Wickler and our state, like we have a really good infrastructure. We have a county party system that I think for so long, Mark, would only show up for elections and then they would like leave and people just feel used. Like, why do you only show up when you need something from me instead of like being an active part of the community? And I think we have done a very good job of building an infrastructure and being there, 24/7 in these communities. And so to me, it's how can we build from that core foundation and continue to meet people where they are. And one of the things I think that we are all working on that we've learned from, the 2024 election is, for example, social media. I mean, I can't tell you how many, whether it is moms or, seniors are on their Facebook page or their Instagram, and that's how they're getting their information, but they're getting it based on what they look at. So like how to make meals in 5 minutes or their skincare, like they're not looking for Democrats, but how can we then almost meet them where they are and kind of fighting, in addressing the misinformation. So I think one of the examples is, let's talk about the MAHA movement, like these Make America Healthy Again. Well, yeah, red dye 40 isn't great, but if you care about a healthy America, what about the SNAP program that was cut for these kids?
Right.
Like that's what actually is not going to make our healthcare system safe. Like, okay, red dye 40 is one thing, but we're not going to have healthy foods for, our kids. And so I think it is helping to really address the mis and disinformation in a way that, Democrats are actually these folks that want to, make sure we have health care and access to nutrition. So our kids and our families, for example, can have food that they need to grow, learn, and develop.
Yeah. So let's just, as we're kind of moving towards the end, tell us about you. I mean, Sarah, the person. So what gives you this energy, this drive to do all that you're doing? I know you grew up in Eau Claire, which is a very important part of the state for lots of reasons. Gives you a kind of a unique perspective outside of this Madison, Milwaukee paradigm. I think that people seem to think run things in the state too often. But tell us a little bit about you and what makes you tick.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm really, why the other reason why I wanted to run for office is I am a product of Wisconsin, Mark. Like I am really grateful for everything that I have gotten, whether, I'm a product of Wisconsin public schools. My parents were public school teachers. My fondest memories are, camping up north, and thank goodness to our heritage in protecting the environment. Like, thank you, Gaylord Nelson, for starting that way before. And so I feel like Wisconsin has given me so much. My parents were, a part of a union, so I had healthcare benefits, and because the union fought for them, and they were a part of those Act 10 protests. So I after I graduated from high school, I did go to college out east, and I just remember thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I just want to be back home." Like. Wisconsinites are the hardest, nicest people I have ever met. Like I remember I was living outside of Washington, D.C., Mark, and I sat on the metro and I started talking to somebody, just asking them how their day was. And they're like, "Do you want something from me?" And I'm like,
right.
"No, I just wanted to say hi. Like, how was your day?" Because that's what we do. Or I knocked on my next door neighbor's, and I introduced myself and I'm like, "Hi, I'm your new neighbor. Here's some cookies." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't even know that we had new neighbors," or like, like they just didn't talk to each other. So I feel like there's just something really special about Wisconsin. And I feel so lucky to be able to live here, now raise my family. I have a 5-year-old son, Hartley, who I think could be like a poster child because his favorite food is ice cream, yogurt, milk, and cottage cheese, Mark. And I did not brainwash him to want this. This is like what he craves day in and day out. And
Well,
like,
and I know Hartley's a big Badgers and Packers fan because on social media I see you and Max, and Hartley is always in some Wisconsin team's gear.
he is a big Packer fan. In fact, I think some of his first words were like, "Go Pack, go."
Yeah.
So, yes, he loves the Packers, and his latest is he got to name our rescue cats, and so we have two. We have one mac and cheese,
Oh,
and
nice.
then the other one is cheddar.
Oh,
So there you go.
nice. And what do you guys do for? I just explained you have no free time because of all you take on. But when you do, what's the hobbies for you, Sarah?
Yeah, well, so we just actually got back from camping.
Nice.
So we love camping and the great outdoors, whether we can like hike or swim. My family cabin that goes back like 4 generations is in between Spooner and Hayward. And so as much time as we can spend up north. In fact, for the first time, I got to bring Hartley to the Spooner Rodeo. And they do this thing called the nickel scramble where they put nickels in the dirt and you get to find as many as possible. And so
that's fun.
Like my grandfather brought my mom, I got to go as a kid. And so Hartley is now going. So it's, I think whenever I can be outside, Mark, I am in my happy place.
Nice. So without being overtly political, because this is not a political podcast, this is, officially, but what's next for Sarah Godlewski?
Oh my gosh. I don't know, Mark. Like I feel for me, I've been really lucky because I don't want to say it's just, I just kind of stumbled upon things. Like if somebody would have told me I was the state treasurer, I would have been like, you are joking. Like, are you kidding me? And, or, you're going to be the next Secretary of State. And I'm going to be like, I don't even know what the Secretary of State does. So for me, I think it really comes down to what's the best way that I can maybe add value and solve problems, because that's what I think I've been good at. Whether it is trying to get an office in the basement as state treasurer and saving people's homes from foreclosure, to now being the Secretary of State where we're putting documents online and providing transparency and accountability. And so I just think like, all right, where are these problems and how much, like maybe where's the best place that I can add value. But I am still very busy in the Secretary of State's office. We still have a lot of things that we are working on day in and day out to serve Wisconsin.
Well, your name comes up whenever people talk about other offices. I don't want to say bigger offices because that's maybe not fair, because you're elected statewide before, and that's a big effort. But clearly you're someone I think that people look to as a future leader, in addition to the leadership that you're doing right now and the position you're in. So if people want to follow you on social media, or the office of Secretary of State, how do they follow you or the office? What's the best way for people to do that?
Yeah, so my official account is just Secretary of Wisconsin. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And then just like my more personal accounts are Sarah for Wisconsin. And we're on Instagram and Blue Sky and Twitter and Facebook as well. But we would love for folks to follow us. And Mark, we show pictures as we are traveling across the state, whether we're doing some town halls together or, stopping at a local cheese factory. We kind of try to make everything fun and show people what we're doing and where we are.
Well, and we should tell people they definitely want to find out every Halloween what Hartley is going to wear. Because his costume, you've had him in costume since he was born. So that's another reason to follow your social media.
Yeah, his first one was a bag of cheese curds, which I was very proud of myself. I got a clear trash bag and put yellow balloons in it, and he was like, loved it. And then I asked him last year, I was like, what do you want to be, Hartley? Like, do you want to be your favorite animal? Which he was really into owls or a dinosaur. And he's like, I want to be a milk carton. And I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding me? And he goes, goes, Mom, it's my favorite drink. And I'm like, oh my God. So we figured out how to make him a milk carton. So
That's great.
yes.
That's great. I hope he doesn't. I just had the great opportunity yesterday. My oldest friend on the planet, who I've known since first grade, we got a chance to hang out a little in DC. He was in town with his wife and got to show him around. And he reminded me of the story when he was in sixth grade for his 12th birthday. He decided to drink 12 milks. And needless to say, they did not all stay in him. I do not recommend 12 milks. Milk is good, but not 12. So,
all right. When you see him, Mark, please next time give him that advice, because he will be like, oh, Congressman told me I can only have a few. And I'm going to be like, exactly, buddy. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, thanks so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. And thanks for all you're doing for the people of Wisconsin. And we look forward to following everything you do in the future. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun. And I would love to come back anytime, Mark.